Deep beneath the dark, still waters of Australia's ancient lakes and rivers, something waits. Something vast. Something old. Something that has haunted the dreams of a people for over 60,000 years. The Bunyip. Before the first European boot ever touched Australian soil, Aboriginal communities across the entire continent shared a terror, a singular, bone-deep fear of what lurked beneath the water's surface. Not a myth invented to scare children. Not a story borrowed from elsewhere. A warning, passed from elder to child, generation after generation, through an unbroken chain stretching back to the Dreamtime itself. The word Bunyip is believed to come from the Wathaurong language of southeastern Australia, meaning devil or evil spirit. But the creature it describes is far more terrifying than any spirit. Witnesses, from ancient tribal elders to wide-eyed colonial settlers, describe something that should not exist. A body as large as a bull, covered in dark matted fur or glistening scales depending on who you ask. A face twisted between dog and crocodile, with hollow black eyes that reflect no light. Tusks, or sometimes a long serpentine neck rising from the water like a living nightmare. And a cry, a roar so hideous, so alien, that those who have heard it say the sound alone was enough to stop a human heart. Aboriginal Australians did not simply tell stories about the Bunyip, they knew it as absolute reality. Certain lakes and waterholes were completely avoided, not out of superstition, but out of hard-won experience. Sacred sites near water were marked with warnings. Tribal laws forbade certain people, particularly women and children, from approaching known Bunyip territory after dark. The Bunyip did not merely lurk, it hunted. It was said to drag victims beneath the surface without a ripple, leaving behind only stillness and silence. Some Aboriginal nations believed the Bunyip was the guardian of the waterways, a supernatural enforcer protecting sacred water sources from those who would desecrate them. Others believed it was something far older, a remnant of a world before humans, a creature that had survived when all others had vanished. Then the Europeans arrived, and they heard the stories, and they laughed until they stopped laughing. In 1818, explorers following the Hume River deep into unmapped New South Wales reported something enormous moving through the water, something that matched no known animal. In 1821, a skull was discovered near Bathurst. It was unlike anything scientists had ever seen. The skull was put on public display in Sydney, and Aboriginal people who saw it immediately identified it without hesitation. The Bunyip. The skull vanished before it could be properly studied. To this day, no one knows what it was or where it went. In 1846, a peculiar fossil bone was discovered at Leg of Mutton Lake in Victoria. Scientists could not identify it. The Melbourne Geological Society debated it furiously. It was described as belonging to a large unknown creature, possibly aquatic. The bone disappeared too, lost, forgotten, or perhaps something more deliberate. The sightings did not stop. Across the 1800s, dozens of credible witnesses, farmers, surveyors, magistrates, police officers, reported encounters with something massive and unknown in Australia's inland waterways. 1851, Lake Tiberius, Tasmania. A creature described as the size of a large dog with a round head and dark fur was seen swimming, then submerging. 1872. A pastoral worker near Narrandera reported something pulling at his cattle as they drank from the Murrumbidgee River. He fired his rifle at it. The water turned dark, nothing surfaced. 1886. Multiple witnesses near Eura, Victoria, reported a creature with a horse-like head rising from a billabong. Local Aboriginal elders were not surprised. They had warned people about that particular waterhole for decades. Scientists began to speculate. Could the bunyip be a surviving species? Australia is, after all, a continent of evolutionary miracles and ancient ghosts. Some paleontologists pointed to Diprotodon, a massive hippo-sized marsupial that roamed Australia until roughly 10,000 years ago. Others whispered about Palorchestes, a terrifying creature with a tapir-like snout and powerful claws that once haunted Australian wetlands. And then there is Zygomaturus, a heavy semi-aquatic marsupial that lived near water sources and grew to enormous size. A creature Aboriginal Australians would have encountered and remembered. Were the Bunyip stories a cultural memory? Tens of thousands of years of oral tradition preserving the image of a creature that had once been very real? The Dreamtime does not separate past from present the way Western thinking does. In Aboriginal cosmology, the ancient past is not gone. It is alive, layered beneath the surface of the world like water beneath dry earth. If a creature existed 10,000 years ago, it exists still in the Dreamtime. Its power bleeds into the living world. The Bunyip may be both, a real animal from Australia's prehistoric past, and a living spiritual force that never truly died. And here is where the story becomes deeply uncomfortable, because the reports have not stopped. In 1950, a group of campers near Lake George in New South Wales fled their site after hearing an enormous splash and seeing what they described as a massive dark shape moving through the water toward them. In 1981, a fisherman on the Murray River reported watching something enormous and black surface briefly near his boat before silently sliding back beneath the water. He described it as being at least 4 meters long. In 2001, hikers near Macedon, Victoria, reported finding a strange series of enormous tracks near a creek bed. Tracks unlike any known animal, wide and deep, pressed into soft mud, leading directly into the water and not coming back out. And perhaps most unsettling of all were in 2018, in a region of Queensland, a wildlife camera set up to capture nocturnal animals recorded something moving through a shallow river at 3 a.m. The footage has never been fully explained. Australia is a continent that still holds secrets. New species are discovered here every few years. In 2020, a new species of giant lizard was confirmed in Queensland, 7 feet long, previously unknown to science, hiding in plain sight. If a 7-foot lizard can remain hidden from Western science into the 21st century, what else might be down there, beneath the dark water, in the deep places that humans avoid? The Aboriginal peoples of Australia have maintained an unbroken oral tradition for 60,000 years. 60,000 years. That is the longest continuous cultural tradition in the history of human civilization. When those traditions warn you about something in the water, something ancient, something hungry, something that does not follow the rules of the natural world as we understand it, perhaps the only rational response is to listen. The Bunyip waits. It has always waited. In the deep black water, beneath the still surface, in the silence between ripples, it is waiting still. If this journey into the dark touched something in you, share it with someone who loves the unknown. The wilderness is full of stories that have never been told. We're just getting started.